Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. Breaking the 10 absolute arrays, Li Changshou, went crazy after leaving the level. The apocalypse of the gods has begun, and 3 of the 10 absolute arrays have been broken. Helpless, Shen Gongbao, who had just entered the gate of seclusion, planned to search for a hidden world expert. At the time of Jiejiao Creation, spiritual deficiency is present. If there is spiritual deficiency to assist in interception, it may be able to reverse the universe. Finally, Shen Gongbao saw it. I, Zhao Feng, have traveled through the flood and wilderness of the Fengshen period. 1 has no golden finger, 2 has no realm, and 3 has no spiritual power, hence the Taoist name Ling Xu. Fortunately, I hid in a palace belonging to the leader of the Tongtian Sect in advance, which was enough to escape the difficulty of becoming a deity. The moment of the demise of the Fengshen Sect has arrived, and the Ten Jue Formation is about to be broken. Shen Gongbao has come. At this point, the divine level friend system is activated. Play as your friend Li Changshou at the beginning. Heaven does not give birth to me, Li Changshou. The stable path will last forever like a long night. Although I have no intention of chasing deer, I know the hardships of life. In this way, Li Changshou was born to solve the downfall of JiejiaoFeilu Novel Network. Reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. The 10 Extremes Formation has been broken, please intercept the former. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The 10 Absolute Formation has been broken. Please intercept and teach that senior to leave the mountain. A vast and desolate world, a day of continuous rain and gloom. Shen Gongbao pressed the bamboo hat on his head and couldn't help but sigh as he watched the thick and rolling clouds in the sky disappear from view. The great apocalypse of the gods has fully begun, with 3 out of 10 formations broken, 50 avenues and 40.9 heavenly extensions. Where is the escaping glimmer of vitality? He shook his head, lowered his head, and continued on his journey. He has been at the door of the Intercept Church for a long time, sharing weal and woe. Now that the Intercept Church is in great danger, he can no longer be a carefree person. Under the measure of calamity, everyone is in danger. Although there is a saying that when the sky collapses, there will be a tall one standing on top, but Shen Gongbao is still in a panic. Not just panic. What a flustered comparison. The relationship between elucidation and paraphrasing today can be said to be incompatible, not to mention the old days of solidarity. After completing the teaching, Shen Gongbao is also finished. Various chaotic thoughts in his mind failed to stop him from rushing forward. After a hurried journey, a towering fairy mountain in the distance was already in sight. Shen Gongbao looked at the fairy mountain standing tall in the gloomy rain, piercing straight into the clouds, and wondered if he could see the dawn sunshine there. The mansion of Senior Ling Xu is there. He was there at the beginning of the establishment of Jiejiao, but now that Jiejiao is in danger, he is also there. Such an old senior who joined the sect very early, but only disappeared from the world, I don't know why. Perhaps this is the demeanor of a master, and I wonder if it's possible to invite a senior to come out this time. The ultimate hope for teaching lies in this hidden world expert. While muttering to himself, Shen Gongbao couldn't help but start recalling information about this Ling Xu senior. The leader of the Tongtian Sect founded the Xiaoqiongfeng sect, and the first generation of disciples were all born with great abilities, each with extraordinary abilities. Only this Ling Xu senior often avoids the world, although he treats people very well and is very helpful. But the disciples in the sect knew nothing about his background and were very mysterious. Not even people like the Golden Spirit Virgin are known much. However, the leader of the Tongtian Sect highly values him and has a close relationship with him. With such great abilities, he must be a master. As the thoughts flowed, Shen Gongbao had unknowingly walked to the foot of the mountain. He looked up at the towering fairy mountain, and as he stepped onto the land, disregarding the drizzle, he solemnly took the bamboo hat. Disciple Shen Gongbao, I am here to pay my respects to Senior Ling Xu. With a loud shout, Lin startled the birds to fly. Shen Gongbao waited for a while, but did not notice any fluctuation in mana coming. After a while, he couldn't bear it anymore. Strange or strange, don't seniors want to see me? At this moment, Shen Gongbao noticed a crooked-necked tree by the side of the small road at the foot of the mountain. On the book stood an unknown little bird, its agile eyes curiously examining Shen Gongbao. Shen Gongbao is strange, why doesn't this bird fly when it sees people? Jiejiao. At this moment, the bird chirped twice with a crisp sound, spread its wings and flew, circling around the Shengong leopard before flying up the mountain. Shen Gongbao trembled all over, only then did he realize where the inexplicable conflict had just occurred. Even though it was a rainy day, there was no trace of water on the bird's body, which had no magic or spiritual power fluctuations at all. Is this the messenger of Senior Ling Xu? How to raise an ordinary bird so that it doesn't touch any worldly dust? Shen Gongbao couldn't think of it, nor did he have time to think of such a problem. He quickly took steps to follow, thinking that this was the signal that Senior Ling Xu had agreed to see him. As a member of the Immortal family, he certainly did not know that birds secrete oil to avoid water. Following the little bird all the way to the top of the Immortal Mountain, there was a huge palace that was 1,000 zhang long. There was a plaque hanging outside the palace gate, with several lines of large characters on it. The Lord of the Immortal Palace, the Spirit Void Hall. Shen Gongbao's heart trembled. Xian Gong. Immortal Palace. Shen Gongbao couldn't help but feel extremely shocked as he looked at the large characters on the plaque. What kind of existence is this? Is this kind of existence actually building a palace on a mundane hill, or is it a fairy palace? This kind of handwriting is truly shocking. Is Senior Ling Xu a true immortal? Shocked in his heart, Shen Gongbao couldn't help but curiously look inside the Immortal Palace. However, just as he entered the Immortal Palace, a sudden flash of light appeared before his eyes, and he disappeared from sight. In the Immortal Palace, there is a white jade bridge that stands several hundred zhang tall. The bridge is snow-white and lacks any breath of life. Under the bridge, there is a pool of springs, inside which there is a faint white mist that looks very beautiful, but on the surface of this pool, there are countless fine cracks. Shen Gongbao looked around and found himself suspended on the surface of a lotus flower. On the surface of the lotus flower, there was an invisible barrier that enveloped him. Senior Ling Xu, I am a disciple of the Golden Spirit Holy Mother who is explaining teachings. I have an urgent matter to ask for an audience, and I am wondering if it is possible to open the door. Shen Gongbao shouted loudly, his voice piercing through layers of barriers and entering the Immortal Palace. However, the reply to him was still a complete silence. Shen Gongbao's face showed a look of disappointment. Indeed, he is an indifferent expert. It seems that the younger generation will need to wait here for a long time before they may see the senior again. With a sigh, Shen Gongbao sat on the lotus flower and crossed his knees to practice. The spiritual energy in this Immortal Palace is extremely strong, and during cultivation, he even felt a trace of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. This kind of spiritual energy is completely different from the spiritual energy he usually absorbs in the human world. In addition to practicing, Shen Gongbao's attention was also observing the entire Immortal Palace. The entire palace may seem ordinary, but there are a lot of things inside. Roads cover the corners of the entire hall, including various spiritual medicines, spiritual materials, spiritual herbs. Plants of spiritual medicine, spiritual materials, and spiritual herbs are arranged neatly, row by row in an orderly manner. Truly deserving of being an unparalleled expert in education, possessing such a vast garden. While feeling shocked in his heart, Shen Gongbao's gaze swept across the entire Immortal Palace, and the more he looked at it, the more turbulent waves surged in his heart. This kind of calligraphy, this level of spiritual richness, he has only seen the Lord of Intercept in his lifetime, the Holy One of Heaven. It seems that the identity of this senior is far beyond my imagination. Maybe. It's still a semi-holy cultivation under the sage. At this point, Shen Gongbao couldn't help but get excited. In this way, intercepting teachings will be saved. Saints are not allowed to intervene in measuring tribulations, but semi-saints under saints are not included in this list. Without the vast world of saints, semi-saints are the biggest hard truth in their fists. Time waits for no one, and Shen Gongbao quickly respectfully bowed again, speaking loudly. Young generation Shen Gongbao. Please come out of the mountain, Senior Ling Xu. Save me from the depths of water and fire. Chapter 2. System Awakening. I have a friend. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 System Awakening. I have a friend. Boom. The gate of the Immortal Palace opened with a loud roar, weighing over tens of thousands of pounds and carrying a strong sense of oppression. Even Shen Gongbao's breathing was stagnant. Out of the corner of my eye, I seemed to catch a glimpse of a man in a long blue shirt walking slowly, with lotus growing step by step. That's Senior Ling Xu, right? Such magnanimity is truly extraordinary. Zhao Feng stretched lazily and yawned, flicking the eye droppings out of the corner of his eye. Going to bed early and waking up early is good for mental health. The red ones are flowers, the green ones are grass. Zhao Feng paused slightly and suddenly noticed why someone was bowing at his doorstep. This is so fresh. I'm hiding here as a dead house, but can anyone still find me? He frowned and cleared his throat, pretending to be calm as he asked. Who is coming? Didn't I introduce myself 3 or 4 times? Shen Gongbao felt strange for a moment, but he didn't dare to speak recklessly, so he had to respectfully say. If I were to return to my senior, I, Shen Gongbao, am a disciple of Jiejiao and would like to pay my respects to you. Oh, the disciple who intercepted the teachings. Zhao Feng nodded and said to himself, shouldn't Jiejiao now be like a dog's brain fighting with the person who explains? How could someone come to this place where birds don't poop to pay their respects? Seeing that the senior seemed to have no further information, Shen Gongbao couldn't help but urgently said. I understand, senior. I am not rashly disturbing Senior Changshou. Truly, at this time, the situation of intercepting teachings is extremely dangerous, and there is no way for me to. He gritted his teeth hard, and his already bent waist almost bent. I have no choice but to come and disturb my senior. I earnestly request that you come out of the mountain. Help me intercept the teachings. Shou Jiejiao. Zhao Feng was taken aback for a moment, but couldn't laugh out loud. It's pitiful to see that Zhao Feng has traveled to 3 or 4 yuan hui in the wilderness, without a golden finger or a soul root as thick as a carrot. His cultivation talent is unparalleled in the world, at least it can be said to be extremely mediocre. For such a long time, as an old man who joined the sect at the beginning of its establishment, his current cultivation is nothing more than a Tai Golden Immortal. And it's also the most useless Tai Golden Immortal. If you really want to fight, you may not be able to defeat a Golden Immortal. Being in seclusion is an impossible task, and Zhao Feng deeply understands the dangers of the flood and wilderness. The spiritual emptiness of the Taoist name is not due to his disguise, but because his spiritual power is truly emptiness. As the saying goes, if you compare yourself to others, you will be beaten to death. In his early years, he lived in seclusion on Jiejiao Island for many years. Now that the great apocalypse of the gods has begun, Jiejiao Island has long become a battlefield for the 10 heavenly kings and the teachings. So he ran to a palace in the sky and hid. After all, this place was a saint's dojo, and even if it was a sect, no matter how hard it was fought, it could not bring shame to the saint. Pinching his chin and pondering for a moment, Zhao Feng looked at Shen Gongbao with a pleading expression on his face and remembered the bits and pieces he had been teaching. Anyway, intercepting teachings can be considered a blessing for oneself at least. So he smiled at the corners of his mouth, lifted Shen Gongbao's hand, and showed a friendly expression on his face. Well, in that case, I really need a helping hand with teaching interception. Shen Gongbao's face showed a look of ecstasy as he looked at Zhao Feng excitedly. Did you agree, senior? But I refuse. Okay. Senior, let's go down the mountain now. 3 of the 10 Jue Formation set by the 10 Heavens Emperor has already been broken. As long as we... Zhao Feng looked at Shen Gongbao with a dull expression on his face and smiled, touching his dog's head with a look of pity in his eyes. Foolish child, if I were to leave the mountain, there would be no other way besides being beaten to death. You are already a mature disciple of Jiejiao, it's time to face the small storm of Fengshen alone. Now that I have reached a critical point in my cultivation, I cannot escape. Otherwise, I will never move forward for life. The fate of cutting off teaching has its own days, and I cannot interfere. Shen Gongbao's mind was in a daze, and he could hardly hear what the senior in front of him was saying. The sound of shattered hope echoed in his heart, and the surrounding fairy palace scenery seemed to shatter with a loud bang, leaving only a deep abyss. For some unknown reason, Shen Gongbao murmured to himself. Ling Xu Sr. cannot save Jiejiao. Ling Xu Sr. cannot rely on. Ling Xu Sr. cannot. Zhao Feng's forehead was bulging with veins. How did this silly kid talk? He will let Shen Gongbao see if he can do it today. Man, you can't say you can't do it. Cough cough, although I can't personally go out to help you, at least I have been wandering in the wilderness for many years, and I also know a few friends who are all extraordinary powers. Shen Gongbao's eyes were lifeless, as if his soul had already left his body. His mouth twitched and he unconsciously looked at Zhao Feng. Senior, the friend you mentioned cannot be yourself, right? It must be yourself, right? You live in seclusion, where did you come from as a friend? You damn it. Zhao Feng's blood pressure briefly filled up for a moment, and the most heart-wrenching thing was that Shen Gongbao's unconscious questioning was true. He does live in seclusion and has connections everywhere, but none of them are deep. The so-called friends are really nonsense he talks about in order to maintain the dignity of his predecessors. As Zhao Feng's dignity was about to collapse and he was on the verge of death, his face became increasingly stiff. Who? Nonsense. Regarding the matter of senior experts, having 2 friends can't be considered a dead end. Me, I have so many friends. Everyone is super awesome. Hee hee. Senior. I can't save Jiejiao. As the situation was about to become tense, suddenly a pleasant reminder sounded in Zhao Feng's mind. Ding. It has been detected that the host has triggered the ceiling god quantity calamity. I have a friend whose system has awakened and is currently being detected. The host has been bound. System. Do you have your own system? Zhao Feng was taken aback for a moment, then couldn't help but sigh as he looked up at 45 degrees in the sky. Oh my goodness. Earth. 3 or 4 yuan meeting. He, Zhao Feng, finally has the necessary system for travelers. At this moment, Zhao Feng had an impulse to cry. And the system's prompt sound kept ringing one after another. Host can earn various rewards by playing random friends and increasing their level of play. During the duration of the task, increasing their level of play will double the rewards. When the task time passes, the system will randomly switch to playing the role of friend. Tip. Hosts who have played as friends can still play, but task rewards will return to normal levels. Task items include but are not limited to the ability to play as a friend, magic weapons, physical fitness, etc. Important reminder. During the play period, the host's own strength will not change, but factors such as cause and effect, breath, and heavenly mechanisms will be covered by the system, and the degree of coverage is unlimited. Random task. Random completed. Congratulations to the host for extracting the task. Play the role of friend Li Changshou. Zhao Feng is extremely excited. I have a friend playing system. As long as you can play the role of those great masters in the wilderness, anyone is dozens of times more powerful than yourself. If I were lucky enough to randomly play the role of a sage in the wilderness, wouldn't I have taken it to the sky in one step? Bully, this system is so awesome. It's simply invincible. But when Zhao Feng heard the first character he was drawn to play, friend, he couldn't help but be stunned. Li Changshou. Zhao Feng was taken aback for a moment, and then his expression became somewhat subtle. Of course he knows about this adult. As the saying goes, if heaven does not give birth to him, Li Changshou will remain steadfast for eternity like a long night. In the midst of time, if we talk about Go, Zhao Feng is not as good as Li Changshou. Now that the system is in place, becoming stronger is already a straightforward approach for Hongtu, but there is still a small issue before us. To become stronger, one must complete the tasks of the system, and completing the tasks is destined not to be a dead end. What should I do? At this moment, Zhao Feng turned his gaze to Shen Gongbao in front of him. At this moment, Shen Gongbao seemed to have his soul detached from his body, with more breath and less intake, completely losing his soul, and even turning his entire color into black and white. Zhao Feng was startled by this, and he quickly engaged in a big fight to fan Shen Gongbao back into the real world. He was afraid that Shen Gongbao's art style would become minimalist black and white lines if he stayed a little later. Cough, although I can't go out of the mountains to share the worries of Jiejiao, it's not completely impossible. Shen Gongbao woke up as if from a dream, but quickly felt a burning pain on his face. It is only natural for me to feel ashamed and hot in front of my seniors. He quickly sorted his mood and respectfully said. Please clarify, senior. Zhao Feng smiled slightly and spoke with an enigmatic expression. 5,000 miles west of here, there is a sect called Du Xian Men. Above it is the Xianshan Xiaoqiong Peak. I have a good friend there, go find him. Duxianmen. Xiaoqiongfeng. Shen Gongbao carefully noted it down and asked again out of caution. I don't know, senior friend. What is your courtesy name? Zhao Feng laughed heartily, turned around and walked into the main hall, leaving behind a faint smile as the door slammed shut. No respect, no account, Li Changshou is no exception. Chapter 3. Xiaoqiongfeng Formation, Immortal's Good Formation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Xiaoqiongfeng Formation, Immortal Master's Good Formation, Immortal Master's Good Taoist Techniques, Senior. Senior. Shen Gongbao saw that Senior Ling Xu no longer answered, and his heart was filled with helplessness. He hesitated whether or not to search for the friend of Senior Ling Xu. But as my seniors have said, there is a destiny in heaven, and he happens to have reached a critical moment in his cultivation, unable to get rid of it. I'm sure the heavenly Tao doesn't want the senior to just intervene in the sealing of the divine and measuring the calamity. Well, if you die, be a living horse doctor. Since you are recommended by your seniors, I believe you must have some outstanding qualities. Go ahead. After making up his mind, Shen Gongbao summoned the clouds and drove them towards what his seniors had said, 5,000 miles to the west. 3 days later, Xiaoqiong Peak descends. Shen Gongbao panted heavily and looked at the small mountain in front of him. Speak high or not, speak immortal or not. Ordinary and ordinary, there is a small mountain everywhere in the wilderness. Ha! Ha! Is there really a master like what seniors call here? Shen Gongbao finally finished breathing and took a horizontal step towards Xiaoqiong Peak. Ahead, the forest is lush and there is no common white mist, and the scenery is also very ordinary. But as I walked, I felt something was wrong. Why did the scenery around me keep repeating? And I walked for half an hour, which should be enough time to climb over this small mountain. But why can't I still see the top of the mountain? Shen Gongbao cautiously walked forward and soon made a brand new discovery. A wooden plaque was hung on the treetop ahead, with 3 big characters written on it. Lost Shen Gongbao instinctively nodded and then trembled, his eyes full of vigilance. Who left this handwriting on earth? Shen Gongbao stared at the wooden sign for a while, then saw a wooden sign hanging on the tree behind him. He took 2 steps forward, and the surrounding scenery changed slightly, but the wooden sign behind him was still there. Another sentence was written on the wooden plaque, "Excuse me, why come to Xiaoqiong Peak?" The younger generation intercepted the teachings of Shen Gongbao and, on the order of Senior Ling Xu, came to pay homage to Master Li Changshou. Shen Gongbao respectfully replied, but his hands couldn't help but tremble. Is this a rumored time gap? It is rumored in ancient times that a congenital creature entered a canyon and walked out from the other end of the canyon for tens of thousands of years, unaware of the changes of time. Can this absurd thing also happen to me? At this moment, is Xiaoqiongfeng all the eyes of that Li Changshou, and is he the mole ant in his palm? As soon as he saw the wooden plaque behind him, Shen Gongbao followed it and walked forward again. As he stood in front of the next wooden plaque, the surrounding scenery would change slightly, as if it were a transformation of form and position, and it was the flow of formation. After the wooden plaque, there is also a wooden plaque. And the handwriting on those wooden plaques made Shen Gongbao feel more and more frightened as he looked at them. It was as if a dark shadow was following behind him, constantly questioning in his ear, driving him closer to a trap, but he dared not retreat. Excuse me, but am I a member of the Immortal Sect? This formation is only used to protect the important area of the pill room and complies with the regulations of our sect Dan Feng. The alchemy place of Senior Li Changshou in Xiaoqiongfeng. Excuse me, but did you break into Xiaoqiong Peak without permission? I can't help but allow it. I was sent by Senior Ling Xu. Shen Gongbao is almost crying. Please do not damage any plants or trees here. This road leads to an open space without sound insulation formation. Hey! Is this the exit left by the person who set up the formation? This is a rough guide sign, the open space is right ahead, here we are, please take 3 steps forward. Shen Gongbao paused his steps, instinctively holding his breath. He looked ahead at a big tree and took 3 more steps with some suspicion. The scenery in front of Shen Gongbao changed once again, and a clearing surrounded by trees appeared in front of him. The ground was covered in fallen leaves, with a low table and a bucket of spiritual spring next to it. What is this? Where is this? Looking ahead, there was a wooden plaque. Shen Gongbao walked over and looked at the handwriting written on the plaque, which he was very familiar with but couldn't remember where he had seen it before. Excuse me, please wait here. If I am unable to arrive in time, it should be at a critical moment of seclusion or alchemy. If you can't wait, you can use your immortal power here to shout for help and help from outside. Xiaoqiongfeng sincerely welcomes your visit, but please come directly next time and do not accidentally enter the vicinity of the Dan room. Xiaoqiongfeng Li Changshou, paying homage here. Shen Gongbao's hands trembled as he stepped back and forth, but his back collided with a tree trunk. The retreat route has been blocked without realizing it. Let go, let me go. Shen Gongbao's eyes were wide open, as if he had seen a ghost alive. The slight fear that was still there instantly rose, and his gaze swept around, feeling a slight spin. Could it be that I have collided with evil? No, this place is a formation. Shen Gongbao is at least a disciple of a great sect like Jiejiao. Despite his poor cultivation, he still has a clear vision. The 5 elements of the grand formation here are interdependent, but they are all the most basic and simple maze formations. The problem is that these maze exits are connected to the entrance, and the entrance is connected to the exit. No matter how you walk, you can't get out. This kind of formation skill can be said to transform decay into magic. Shen Gongbao was both respectful and afraid of the unseen Senior Li Changshou. This kind of cultivation that simplifies complexity may already be a return to simplicity. What kind of person is this Li Xianchang? What kind of divine is it? At this moment, the white mist from the trees in front of them suddenly dissipated on their own, and a figure stood behind them with their hands down. It looks like a young man in a long shirt. Shen Gongbao was taken aback, thinking that this must be Li Xianchang, a divine dragon who can see the head but not the tail. He quickly bowed and bowed. The younger generation intercepted Shen Gongbao's teachings and was entrusted by Senior Ling Xu to pay a visit to Li Xianchang. I don't know if I heard the words Ling Xu Senior, but the figure suddenly shook and turned around with a faint smile. Ling Xu. Since it was entrusted by an old friend, come with me. Shen Gongbao was shocked by Li Changshou's demeanor, but soon he suppressed his emotions and followed him forward. Then he came to a pill room. Behind the long table sat Li Changshou, who was exactly like the person in front of him, looking at him with a smile. Tu Li Xianchang. Just as Shen Gongbao was shocked, the person who led him, Li Xianchang, suddenly transformed into a small paper figure and slipped into Li Changshou's sleeve behind the long table. Shen Gongbao suddenly realized. It turns out that the one here is the Immortal, just now it was just a paper figure incarnation. The Immortal is truly unparalleled in terms of divine powers. Not only does he possess such extraordinary array skills, but he is also so proficient in the art of incarnation that it is difficult to distinguish between true and false. It's really a good Taoist technique. A great formation. Behind the desk, Li Changshou smiled and remained silent. Before Shen Gongbao could finish praising him, a teleportation formation suddenly appeared under his feet, and a precious light appeared. Chapter 4. Shen Gongbao's confusion, this Immortal is excessive. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Shen Gongbao is confused, this Immortal is too steady. Shen Gongbao was surprised and didn't know what kind of monster Li Xianchang was up to. But he learned his previous lesson and knew that Li Xianchang's cultivation was unfathomable. It was best not to take any extreme actions on his own. Anyway, even if it's resistance, it's just a struggle of ants. Forcefully calming the surging magic within the lower body, Shen Gongbao's teleportation array takes effect. In a moment, a flower in front of him had already arrived in another room. The furnishings in this room are slightly different from before, with the only difference being that Li Xianchang, who was still dressed in a long robe, sat behind the long table in front of him. There is also Li Xianchang standing not far away reading. Although Shen Gongbao was puzzled, he was still busy and saluted. The younger generation intercepted Shen Gongbao and met Li Xianchang. Before he could finish his opening remarks, Li Xianchang suddenly turned into a paper figure and drifted into the long sleeves of Li Xian, who was standing nearby reading. Is this still a paper figure? Shen Gongbao secretly sighed at Li Xianchang's meticulous thinking that the third Li Xianchang reading the book must be the true master. He was about to turn around and bow again when suddenly a glow lit up under his feet. Another teleportation array has started. Oh my goodness! It's not over yet. Shen Gongbao let out a painful groan, and the earth spun in front of him before being teleported back into another room. This is a completely unfamiliar room, with different furnishings from the Dan room and study room just now. At this point, Shen Gongbao has fallen into a completely confused state. He looked at the three Li Changshou in front of him, and suddenly didn't know who to greet. How cunning Li Changshou is! Shen Gongbao watched as the three Li Changshou figures in front of him turned into paper figures, one diving into the sleeve of the other, and his mouth twitched uncontrollably. At this moment, he is already a bit numb. Rao, he claims to be a disciple of a great sect, and not to mention anything else, he is also considered knowledgeable. Having gone through such a journey today can be considered a small blow to one's buttocks, giving oneself a hard look. At the same time, Shen Gongbao couldn't help but secretly slander in his heart. Is the friend that Senior Ling Xu found reliable or not? As the last paper figure penetrated into Li Changshou's sleeve, a familiar glow shone under Shen Gongbao's feet. This time, he had no intention of resisting at all. Shen Gongbao gave up thinking. After being teleported so many times, Shen Gongbao finally arrived in the deepest room. There are no furnishings here, only a desk. There is a person sitting behind him with a large stable character. Seeing that stable character, Shen Gongbao could hardly restrain the corners of his mouth from twitching wildly. I'm making you feel numb, don't. Is there someone like you who can handle things steadily? I'm here to pay my respects as a guest. I am here to seek a solution to the fate dilemma of intercepting teachings. Isn't this troublemaker? But when it came to abdominal slander, Shen Gongbao still felt a faint sense of unease in his heart. Based on the intelligence available now, this Li Xianchang is a person who values stability and treats everything with utmost caution. Even a single visit can be extremely difficult. Such a steady and extraordinary person, even beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Will you really come out of the mountain to help him solve the dead end of intercepting religion due to the drag of an old friend? Just as Shen Gongbao hesitated, Li Changshou, who was sitting behind the long case, finally spoke up. Are you Shen Gongbao, the disciple who intercepted the teachings mentioned by Ling Xu? Shen Gongbao quickly regained consciousness and respectfully saluted. It's me who has met Li Xianchang. Well, there's no need to be polite. Li Changshou, or Zhao Feng, smiled slightly and gestured for Shen Gongbao to sit down and speak. Of course, it is not Li Changshou himself here, but Zhao Feng who plays the role of Li Changshou in the system. Although he obtained the system, his strength did not improve much until the task was completed. Just to come to Xiaoqiongfeng and arrange these messy things before Shen Gongbao, it's exhausting his old nose. It's pitiful to see that a senior with the most advanced qualifications in the wilderness exerted all his strength and rushed all the way here in just over a day. For Zhao Feng, this was already a magnificent achievement in his life, so he didn't tire himself to death. That is to say, Shen Gongbao had too many distractions in his heart, and he didn't have the chance to travel with all his heart. Fortunately, everything is moving smoothly towards the path I have arranged for myself. Speaking of which, Li Changshou's extremely meticulous approach is very suitable for his temperament. Playing such a steady person is not difficult for Zhao Feng, who has always been steady. Glancing at the large stable characters written on the wall, Zhao Feng nodded with a smile and poured a cup of clear tea for Shen Gongbao, asking. Ling Xu Daoyu asked you to come to my Xiaoqiong Peak, maybe it's not just for the simple purpose of visiting old friends, is it? Shen Gongbao was startled and sighed inwardly that his thoughts and concerns could not be concealed from such an unknown expert in the hidden world. He dared not touch the cup of tea, hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and spoke. Senior, as a wise reminder, Ling Xu is a person with a very high seniority in my sect. Now that I have been in a state of divine calamity, I am in great danger. It should have been Ling Xu who came out of the mountain to save me. But unfortunately, there is a destiny in heaven. At this critical moment, Senior Ling Xu is in seclusion and unable to take action. He sent me here to pay his respects to the Immortal. Please help me intercept and teach him a lesson. Shen Gongbao explained the purpose of his visit in one breath, and suddenly felt that his body had relaxed a lot. But he couldn't help but look at Li Changshou and the big stable character behind him. It is unreasonable to ask someone to intervene and join this muddy water, as the flood and famine have caused great calamity. And it's also for people who are extremely stable. To be honest, Shen Gongbao is ready to be rejected. Oh. Is the situation of Jiejiao in the apocalypse of the gods so bad now? Zhao Feng pretended to be in a state of contemplation, picked up his tea and gently blew it, with a calm expression, as if the sky had collapsed without any shock. Shen Gongbao let out a bitter smile and sighed. Indeed, although I am known as the 10,000 immortals coming to the court, the Fengshen Liangjie targets me everywhere in my teachings. The Chan sect took advantage of the situation and suppressed the division of my sect. The 10 heavenly sovereigns of Jiejiao Island set up 10 extraordinary formations with their lifelong cultivation, but unfortunately, they were all the 12 famous Jin immortals of Chan sect, all of whom had the cultivation to reach the heavens. I am outnumbered in my teaching, and there is also Jiang Zia holding a whip waiting for an opportunity to move. I have really reached the point of extreme poverty. Speaking of this, Shen Gongbao couldn't help but show a look of sadness and anger on his face. The 10 Absolute Formation has been broken down, and the Heavenly Lord has fallen. I'm afraid I won't be able to sustain it for a long time. Please help me, Senior. After speaking, he bowed to the ground. Zhao Feng's face showed surprise, and it seemed that the situation of intercepting teachings had really reached a dead end. After a moment of contemplation, Zhao Feng slowly spoke up. Although I have no intention of chasing deer, I know the hardships of life. Get up, for the sake of my old friend's face, I'll reluctantly lend you a hand. Chapter 5. Li Changshou goes out of the mountain. Zhao Gongming's soul has been taken away. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Li Changshou goes out of the mountain. Zhao Gongming's soul has been taken away. Upon hearing Li Changshou's promise to go out of the mountain to help, Shen Gongbao couldn't help but feel ecstatic in his heart. Are you serious about the Immortal's words? Take it seriously. Shen Gongbao looked at Li Xianchang with a faint smile on his face and knew that asking such a question was a bit impolite, so he lowered his head and said in shame. I am a poor person with a narrow vision. As a hermit and expert like a fairy, I naturally speak the truth without making any false statements. It's not too late, Immortal. Let's set off for Jiejiao Island now. If we arrive at Jiejiao Island 1 minute later, there is one more chance that the 10 Absolute Formation will be completely breached. As Zhao Feng watched Shen Gongbao, who was about to become the leader of the party, roar and shout, he smiled slightly and patted his hands. Don't worry, as the saying goes, sharpening the knife won't delay the woodcutter. Before setting off, I still have some small preparations to do. Why are there so many ink stains? Of course, Shen Gongbao could only think about this in his heart, and he certainly dared not say it, so he reluctantly nodded in agreement. The Immortal was thoughtful and his words were extremely accurate. Then, Shen Gongbao watched as Zhao Feng played Li Changshou and pulled out a thick stack of paper figures from his sleeve. Then there were thick layers of paper figures, followed by thick layers of paper figures. Shen Gongbao watched as the paper figures gradually piled up in front of him, like white hills, and his mouth twitched uncontrollably. This is probably tens of thousands of paper figures. A little bit of preparation, are you like this? Are paper figures made without money or magic? Ah! Zhao Feng sighed inwardly. It was too hasty to arrive here, and the time he had to obtain the system was also too short. Although he obtained the magic of the paper pincher by playing the role of Li Changshou, and he is proficient in it, he can be said to be superb. But in this short amount of time, he can only create tens of thousands of paper figures on site, which is not stable enough. After thinking for a while, Zhao Feng gritted his teeth and pulled out another pile of magic weapons from his sleeve. The 5 elements flag, flying spirit escape talisman, the gold method compass that interferes with inference, as well as the Yuan Qi pill that replenishes spiritual power in emergency situations, and the backup Yuan Qi pill in emergency situations. These are all the savings he will save for a few yuan, they don't rely on the system at all. While digging, Zhao Feng's heart was dripping with blood. But for the sake of stability and safety, even if it's cutting flesh, he has to cut it. Otherwise, it won't be stable enough and he won't be able to sleep. Shen Gongbao looked expressionlessly at the various props, treasures, spiritual pills, etc. that were piled up like mountains, gradually drowning himself and Li Xianchang. It's already numb. And it's the hemp in the hemp, adding hemp to the hemp, hemp. He felt something was wrong from the beginning when he entered this called Xiaoqiongfeng. And this feeling became even more apparent after being tormented by those formations and continuous paper man-Russian nesting dolls. The final freeze frame is at the moment when you see that big stable character. The called too much is too little, the ultimate stability is actually the ultimate instability. Is Li Xianchang really reliable? Ding! Detected that the host has implemented the principle of Li Changshou's stability, with a 15% increase in performance. Reward. 33 escape techniques, great achievements. Zhao Feng's eyes lit up, and he found nowhere to go after his iron shoes. It took no effort to obtain them. I finally got the reward from the system. After counting the prepared items, Zhao Feng stood up with his hands down and smiled faintly. Alright, let's go down the mountain. Can be considered as leaving. Yes. Shen Gongbao breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly led Zhao Feng out of the mountain, afraid of slowing down a step. Wait, that's the way to. Oh my. Puff. Zhao Feng held back for a moment and spat out the second half of his sentence. A formation that traps the enemy's dung pit. Meanwhile, on the other side. An elderly man with a fairy-like demeanor, dressed in simple coarse cloth clothes, is in a room. In front of me is a small table, with a grass figure tied on it and ancient Chinese characters written on it. Zhao Gongming. The grass man has a lamp on his head and a lamp under his feet. The old man stepped on his feet and fought fiercely, muttering words in his mouth. He held an unknown book in one hand and lit a small seal out of thin air in the other. The pungent and foul-smelling smell emanated from the small print, while at the same time, the grass man seemed to have his soul bound, emitting a faint scream of pain. Goodbye. Jiang Zia drank with a trembling sound, and the small print in his hand was flying ash. The ashes dripped onto the grass figure and disappeared. Ha! In more than 10 days, the Dingtu 7 Arrows book will scatter Zhao Gongming's soul. Even if it is personally sent by the heavens, it will not be able to save him. As the words fell, Jiang Zia's mouth curved a strange curve. Master 1. When Taisher, who was anxiously pacing in place, heard someone calling him, withdrew his anxious mind, and looked at the other person. The person who came is Zhao Gongming's disciple, Chen Jiogong, and Yao Shaoxi. When Taisher looked at the two of them and looked around to confirm that no one was watching before lowering his voice and speaking. You two came just in time. I have something important to ask both of you to do, it's urgent. Chen Jiogong and Yao Shaoxi exchanged a glance, and upon hearing this, the Grand Tutor came quickly and steadily. If it weren't for the collapse of the sky, he wouldn't have been so anxious. He nodded solemnly and said. Grand Tutor, just give orders. We should go through fire and water without hesitation. Okay, I have received news that Jiang Zia was advised by Luya to use the Dingtu 7 Arrows book to capture Zhao Gongming's soul. With just 21 days of worship, his 3 souls and 7 souls will be scattered. Now. It is already the 5th day. What? What a coincidence. Quiet. When Taisher calmed Chen Jiogong and Yao Shaoxi, who were shocked, and continued. This matter is not completely unsolvable. I want you to go and get the Dinghead 7 Arrows book. Whether you steal or rob it, you must bring it back, otherwise Zhao Gongming will be in danger. Yes. We will definitely fulfill our mission. Grand Tutor, rest assured. After taking orders, the two of them rushed non-stop to the hiding place where Jiang Zia was. As the son of Liang Jia, Jiang Zia is surrounded by many experts in preaching, and he himself has a divine whip, so he must not forcefully confront them. Fortunately, Chen Jiogong and his companions had good luck, and Jiang Zia didn't seem to be here today. Chen Jiogong and Yao Shaoxi exchanged a glance and understood each other's meaning. Don't miss the opportunity and never come again. The two turned into a cool breeze and quietly blew into Jiang Zia's hiding place, where they saw the small table and the grass figure on it. Although they were extremely angry in their hearts, Chen Jiogong and his companions were not newcomers. After controlling their emotions, they deftly took away the Dingtu 7 Arrows book. Let's go. The two quickly left the scene, but Chen Jiogong felt a faint sense of unease in his heart. All of this seems too smooth. At this moment, there was a towering figure standing silently in the distance, holding a three-pointed two-headed gun, accompanied by a howling divine dog. In the center of the eyebrows, there is a heavenly eye that observes the world. It is the future Erlang Jinjuan, and now Yang Jian is also. Qin Jiugong's face changed greatly, and he didn't care about hiding. He roared at the top of his lungs. Run! Yang Jian touched the head of the roaring dog and looked expressionlessly at Qin Jiugong and Yao Shaoxi, who were fleeing rapidly. Running! Since you're here, why don't you leave something that shouldn't be taken? Chapter 6. Li Changshou. Wait a moment, steady your hand. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Li Changshou. Wait a moment, steady your hand. Oh no. Qin Jiugong and Yao Shaoxi quickly fled, and in an instant, they exerted their strength to eat milk. At this moment, there is no need to hide one's figure. However, behind him, the terrifying pressure always closely followed, and the howling dog had the ability to track. Within the three realms, there were few who could escape its dog nose. Qin Jiugong and his companions were both anxious when they saw the situation. This Ding-Tu 7 Arrows book is of great significance. If it is taken back by Yang Jian, Zhao Gongming's 3 souls and 7 souls will be lost. Xiao Si, this Yang Jian is the god of war who explains and teaches. His martial arts have reached the level of transformation, and he is extremely powerful. Even if we work together, we cannot defeat him. The only current plan. Qin Jiugong's eyes showed a hint of determination to die. I'll entangle you, take this treasure and hurry back. Upon hearing this, Yao Shaoxi was greatly shocked and in great sorrow, with a strong hatred flashing in his eyes. Explaining is despicable, using such despicable means. However, in the current situation, there was no other way. Both of them were mentally mature, and Yao Shaoxi made a decisive decision. After receiving the Ding-Tu 7 Arrows book, he was about to accelerate his escape. Qin Jiugong had a bitter expression on his face, but when he turned around, his fighting spirit surged and a hurricane swept around him. At this moment, a divine light suddenly accelerated, as if passing through space and descending straight in front of the two of them. There are people in front and dogs behind. Yang Jian held a three-pointed, two-bladed sword, his 3 eyes extremely cold, and his spirit of war rippled, filling the entire long street with the charm of Tao. You have great righteousness, but unfortunately, in front of me, there is no possibility of you escaping. Wang Wang. The roaring dog let out a low growl. Qin Jiugong and Yao Shaoxi felt a sense of helplessness upon seeing the situation. Too strong. The gap is really big. They didn't even have a chance to escape. Yang Jian saw the two of them speechless and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. His body leaned forward, and with a thrust of his long sword, his magical power swept out, forcing them to be too busy to care for themselves. The Ding-Tu 7 Arrows book was thrown into mid-air, and Yang Jian's wrist trembled. His magical power extended and he sucked it in. Taking the treasure back into his hands, Yang Jian also understood a major matter in his heart and finally relaxed a bit. Subsequently, he turned his gaze and looked at Qin Jiugong and his 2 companions with pale faces in the distance. You are weak and unworthy of my slaughter. If it weren't for Zia's explanation, there wouldn't have been a chance for us to fight each other. Yang Jian had a cold and aloof expression, as proud as a divine being. At the end of the long street, Zhao Feng and Shen Gongbao were racing at full speed, wanting to quickly go to Jiejiao to save the world. What Shen Gongbao didn't know was that, for safety reasons, the current Zhao Feng was also a paper figure. Of course, his true body was not far away and he hid very well. Even the brief confrontation between Yang Jian and Qin Jiugong and others was carefully observed by him. Yang Jian. In the realm of divine power and calamity, he is a formidable general with immense combat power and absolute prowess. Zhao Feng, hiding in the void, watched as Qin Jiugong and his companions were easily crushed. Now, the two of them had reached Changjie, and Zhao Feng was pondering countermeasures. If Shen Gongbao discovers this matter, he will definitely ask me to take action to save Qin Jiugong and others as expected. From afar, Shen Gongbao saw the imposing appearance of Yang Jian and stopped in an instant. The leopard's face and beard were trembling. You're both anxious and scared. This is the god of war Yang Jian. Senior. Shen Gongbao anxiously shouted and looked at Zhao Feng. Senior Changshou, the person and dog from afar are the god of war in the realm of Buddhism, with terrifying combat power. The other two are the people I taught. The next moment, he saw Yang Jian holding a 7-arrow book with a spiked head, which bore the aura of Zhao Gongming. Now, he was even more panicked, with a look of despair on his face. Senior, Yang Jian's magic weapon must be retrieved, otherwise teaching Zhao Gongming would be dangerous. Every battle force of Jiejiao is precious, and Zhao Gongming is one of the leaders and also a god of war. If Zhao Gongming is harmed, it will be dangerous to cut off teaching. Longevity Senior, we must retrieve the 7 arrows book with the ding head. Shen Gongbao was eager and looked at Li Changshou, clasping his fists and pleading. At this moment, Zhao Feng's mind was rapidly changing. Fight against Yang Jian. Do you think your life is too long? However, Zhao Gongming was saved, and this is the treasure of intercepting teachings. Help, you have to save yourself, but always think of a way. Don't worry, don't worry. Upon seeing this, Shen Gongbao suddenly became furious, his eyes angry, and he almost cursed. This senior is really greedy for life and afraid of death. He is really not worthy of trust. The senior is afraid, but I must take action. Shen Gongbao suppressed his anger, his demonic power surging, and he was about to boldly charge out and fight against Yang Jian. It seems like this. Zhao Feng suddenly felt helpless. Good guy, in this flood and wilderness, we also ask for a gourd doll to save our grandfather. Shen Gongbao went up, didn't you just see people drinking and having a bland mouth, and gave them a small dish? Zhao Feng grabbed Shen Gongbao and helplessly said, I have my own magic. Wait a minute, steady your hand. I have already arranged it. Shen Gongbao's face changed and he looked at Zhao Feng with suspicion, saying, has there been an arrangement already? Zhao Feng smiled slightly and saw another Zhao Feng rushing towards him not far away. The arrangement has been completed. Zhao Feng arched his hand, then with a loud bang, he transformed into a paper figure. Zhao Feng put it away, his face calm, and he put on a look of complete control. He said calmly, nature. But at this moment, I cannot easily take action. The bottom card needs to be kept until the end in order to surprise and win with one move. Zhao Feng looked at Shen Gongbao and said seriously, do you know? Shen Gongbao nodded hesitantly at this moment, but then shook his head suddenly. Since we have all the arrangements in hand, why not directly take down Yang Jian? For hermeneutics, this is a great loss. Zhao Feng cursed inwardly when he saw Shen Gongbao so disrespectful, and then looked into the leopard's eyes and said seriously, foolish. I mean, I'm here to trap Yang Jian. Hurry up and go back and call someone. I'm here to keep Yang Jian safe and unable to escape, understand? Shen Gongbao was immediately shocked. Elder Changshou, I'm leaving, won't you just leave? Am I that kind of person? Zhao Feng immediately stared and laughed angrily. If you don't want these two people to die, go quickly. Shen Gongbao was skeptical, but he dared not delay and could only choose to trust this senior Li Changshou. I hope senior, you can give up some stable ideas and rely on some music. Senior, I will return as soon as possible. Within a confidential room. The candlelight was dim, and the three people around were all sighing and looking anxious and worried. When Taisher paced left and right, causing annoyance. I don't know if Jiugong and the other two have succeeded. Calculating the time, they should have come out. Suddenly, upon hearing the footsteps of the Grand Tutor, a cold gleam flickered in his eyes and he said, "We cannot wait for it to dry up. Call a few strong warriors and follow me to meet Qin. If things cannot be done, today I will forcibly snatch the Dingtu 7 Arrows book. Gongming can't just hold back and die like this." Everyone was also anxiously waiting, and now that they have something to do, they finally have a direction. After a quarter of an hour, everyone gathered and heard that the Grand Tutor's face was cold and his eyes were flashing with anger. "Let's go." Yes. The group, carrying a murderous aura but trying to hide their tracks, took a wrong path and headed towards Jiang Ziya's army. At this moment, Shen Gongbao, however, was on the right track, hastily walking and rushing back, intending to move reinforcements. "Long-lived senior, hold on. I'm coming soon." Chapter 7. Great Shame and Shame. It's a great shame. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Great Shame and Shame. It's a great shame. Long Street. Yang Jian held the Dingtu 7 Arrows book in his hand, and his gaze flickered faintly into the distance. There, a magical power flashed by just now and has now retreated far away. I think it's teaching a certain junior. He is the god of war, the king among the third-generation disciples of the Tongtian Sect. He has his own arrogance and disdains to pursue such a weak person. Now that the treasure is in hand, it's time to leave. He looked at the treasure in his hand, with a hint of disdain and regret flashing in his eyes. Zhao Gongming is actually a good opponent, and I may not be able to compete with him. Unfortunately, I have been tricked to death by such means now. As an opponent, Yang Jian also felt deeply regretful, but now it is a great calamity, and he cannot tolerate such affectation. Putting away the Dingtu 7 Arrows book, Yang Jian wanted to summon the roaring heavenly dog to leave together. However, he turned around and looked into the surrounding space, but his cold and hard brow couldn't help but slightly raise. There seems to be a slight change in this world. The vertical eye between his eyebrows also blinked lightly, as if looking out. This space is a bit different from the previous moment. Yang Jian guarded the roaring sky dog behind him, feeling constant suspicion in his heart. After the magical power poured into that day's eyes, it triggered divine powers, and divine consciousness swept out, revealing all illusions. In an instant, this world has changed its appearance greatly. Within a radius of 10 miles, it was enveloped by a strong earthly spiritual energy, and waves of earthy yellow Taoist rhyme spread out, creating an infinite sense of heaviness. That rhyme spread out, outlining into threads, and finally combined in an extremely mysterious way to form a earth-line formation. Yang Jian's eyebrows gradually dimmed, and he looked at this formation with disdain in his heart. Xiao generation dare not show up to fight me, they are all secretly setting up formations. And this formation is too low. Level. It is said that the leader of Jiejiao Tongtian Sect is best at formations. You are such a child. Looking ahead, there were twinkling gold, wood, water, fire, and earth in the distance. The 5 elements formation had already gathered. But this power is really too weak, and the coverage is only 100 miles, the formation is very low. Level. Garbage formation. I can easily get out. Woo woof. The roaring dog also let out 2 loud growls, its nose sniffing non-stop. The howling dog can smell the 3 realms and only has a limited formation, how can it trap his master and servant? However, after sniffing for a while, the howling dog suddenly coughed, roaring in anger, and its body was filled with spiritual light, appearing angry and restless. Yang Jian saw this and his eyebrows were also furrowed. The air was filled with a pungent smell, which choked my nose. Unfortunately, this taste seems to be able to penetrate spiritual energy and is simply irresistible. Truly despicable. Such means. Not a hero. Yang Jian lit two thick spiritual lights, blocking the roaring dog and his own sense of smell. Then, he took big strides forward and stepped into the formation. I can easily break through the inferior formation even if I walk on my own. He was full of confidence and took a step forward, straight into the formation. Step out and enter the Earth-line formation. What a simple formation, I can tell at a glance where the exit is. Yang Jian's heart was filled with mockery, and in his eyes, taking a step to the left was the exit of this formation. He took a step to the left with the howling dog. Step out in one step. The scene in front of me changed instantly, and the earth attribute spiritual energy suddenly disappeared. I'll say, this formation is simply childish. Yang Jian smiled proudly, feeling that he had easily made it through. At this moment, he looked at the surging flames in front of him, and his smile suddenly stopped. Chain formation. Yang Jian's mouth twitched uncontrollably and said, "Who the hell is this person? He's making a bunch of garbage and trying to trap me." His eyes turned cold, and he had lost patience. He can see through such a poor formation at a glance. 3 miles ahead, 50 steps to the right. Pop. The scene before me has changed again. The spiritual energy of the fire attribute dissipates completely, replaced by an endless water body. It's really boring. Seeing this, Yang Jian suddenly felt a wave of annoyance in his heart. I want to see what other tricks you have. Yang Jian stepped out step by step, easily seeing through this formation. Water, gold right now is the wood attribute formation. The 5 elements formation, which generates cycles, is well constructed, but ultimately it is low level and fundamentally weak. Yang Jian looked at the small wooden formation with a confident smile on his lips, took a step out, and closed his eyes. It's all over. Pop. Step out and break through the wooden formation. At this point, the formation of the 5 elements has been completely shattered. He walked through 5 exits and should have left this formation. However, when Yang Jian opened his eyes and was preparing to welcome victory, suddenly his face stiffened again. What is this horse? Looking at the heavy earthy yellow charm in front of him, Yang Jian's mentality was slightly shattered. Didn't he leave this dirt formation long ago? How come you're back again? Yang Jian's mentality collapsed, and he quickly stepped out of his steps, rushing through the formation. In just half a moment, break through 100 formations in a row. However, when he returned to the earth formation once, a hint of confusion rose in his heart. Can't get out. Keep looping. Yang Jian's heart was filled with grievances. At this moment, in the distance, a road sign suddenly appeared. It's written on it. Lost, tired. Take a break. If you want to go out, put down the Dinghead 7 Arrows book. If you don't want to, the road is over here below, an arrow is engraved pointing to the right. Yang Jian looked at this small signpost and finally understood it. The person in the dark, relying on his superb formation skills, has been playing tricks on him. For a moment, terrifying anger surged straight into Yang Jian's heart, raging with anger. With a strong aura, it erupted, and on top of the 3-pointed and 2-edged sword, waves of cold light swept through. Dare to play with me? I directly used brute force to break through your damn formation. Those who hide their heads and face only have this little useless job. When I break through the formation, I will kill you. Boom. Above Yang Jian's body, there was an invincible aura of the god of war flying out, spreading the charm of the Tao and shaking the sky. Immediately after, he held the weapon in both hands and swung his waist to pull out a 10,000 zhang sword, with terrifying power. The blade flashed over the 10-mile-long street, and along the way, formations shattered and the chi of the 5 elements dissipated, making it no match for its unity. Garbage is garbage. Yang Jian let out a cold snort, looked around, and the third eye in his eyebrows opened. One magical power condensed within it, and his divine powers opened up. holding a three-pointed two-edged sword, with a divine eye in the eyebrows. Carrying immense power, the space is constantly oscillating. Under the divine power of the heavenly eye, even further away, various formations were revealed. Yang Jian's eyes were filled with indifference, and as he waved his hand, many divine lights burst out, demonstrating terrifying combat power. Under such divine powers, destroy the five-element arrays of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. After a moment, Yang Jian finally regained his divine power, and with a clang, he stood his three-pointed, two-edged sword on the ground, laughing loudly as he looked up to the sky. How dare you confuse me with such a small garbage formation? It's ridiculous. The garbage formation is the garbage formation. No matter how cleverly arranged, I can break it with a flip of my hand. Can you also bring out this little Taoist technique? Cowardly mouse, I'm too lazy to bother with you today. I'm secretly grateful. Yang Jian broke through the formation, feeling very happy and proud. He turned around and took big strides towards the distance. If you don't have something important to do, you must torture this hidden thief severely. Yang Jian turned into a stream of light and headed towards the distance. Behind him, the roaring dog followed obediently, but the dog's eyes were fixed on the void, passing a hint of doubt. Half a quarter later, Yang Jian crossed the long street, intending to rush back to Jiang Ziya's residence. However, I walked like this for a long time. Yang Jian's fast footsteps suddenly stopped and slowed down. A hint of doubt appeared once again on his face. Here. The scenery in front of me is so familiar. It seems like I met you half an hour ago. A hint of dullness flashed in Yang Jian's heart, and a thought of shock flashed through him. However, he didn't want to believe it, didn't believe in evil, and ran forward with a cold face. Half a quarter later. He has exhausted most of his mana. Just a sweep, it flew hundreds of thousands of miles. How did it return to its original place? His face was already cold, and his heart was constantly guessing. At this moment, suddenly, a wooden signpost appeared not far away. Lost, not useful, buddy. At the sight of this signpost, Yang Jian's heart couldn't help but twitch. He didn't believe in evil and didn't care about saving his mana. He quickly urged the heavenly eye to shine a divine power around him. Suddenly, heaven and earth change. Surrounded by layers of formations. Sleeping slot. Yang Jian blurted out, his eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. This is special, it's a formation again. Besides the five elements formation, there is also a slightly larger layer of formation wrapped around it. Nesting doll. Just connect the formation exit with the entrance. Thousands of five elements formations come together to play with me. Nima, besides a bunch of formations, has a big formation set up. Do you want this? Yang Jian's eyes were empty as he looked at the still layer by layer terrifying formation, his heart trembling and collapsing. He gritted his teeth, his pupils bloodshot, like a madman. Who is playing such a prank on me? A great shame, it's simply a great shame. Yang Jian was filled with anger and even felt a bit aggrieved. My Yang Jian, the third-generation king who preaches and is like a god of war, has been so humiliated. Chapter 8. Distinctive Formation. No matter how tired Nezha is. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Distinctive Formation. No matter how tired Nezha is. Yang Jian's body was in a chaotic state of magic, and his eyes were shattered. Pop. The three-pointed and two-edged knife was thrown aside by him, and he lost his focus and sat in place, completely giving up his struggle. This big formation is simply despairing. On the side, the roaring dog was already lying on the ground, its eyes devoid of any shine. Tired. Who on earth could have created such a formation? Yang Jian gritted his teeth and trembled with anger all over his body. Although they don't have much power, they are all garbage formations, but in terms of cultivating mentality, they have achieved the ultimate. The surrounding large array shimmered with light, extremely stable. Ha! Don't run anymore. It's average, the road sign is flashing. Yang Jian did not respond at all. He completely collapsed and lost all his fighting spirit. At this moment, beyond the formation, at the end of the long street, Jiang Zia was shocked to find that the Dingtu 7 Arrows book had been stolen, and quickly said that it must have been stolen by a thief who intercepted the teachings. So, he sent many skilled men, such as Nezha, Yuding, Fearless Sun, and other generals, to snatch back the Dingtu 7 Arrows book. Now, everyone has arrived. The preaching crowd stood on the long street, looking from afar at the invincible god of war sitting alone and dejected on the ground. What's wrong with Yang Jian? How does the howling dog spin in place? Yang Jian stood up. He walked towards the other side. He was spinning in place. What is this person and dog doing? Everyone looked at Yang Jian's strange behavior and immediately showed an puzzled expression. Nezha blinked and pointed at the pointed spear in his hand, laughing heartily. Why is Yang Jian so foolish? Upon hearing this, Yuding's eyebrows furrowed tightly, and her heart felt a sensation. Her body's magic was working, and a glimmer of spiritual light attached to her eyes. Fearful of leaving Sun and others also looked curiously at the jade cauldron. Among the few people, Yuding led the team with the highest cultivation, and should be able to see through the eerie situation before him. In their eyes, there was nothing on this long street except for Yang Jian and the roaring dog spinning in place, even standing here for a long time without anyone noticing. Strange. Yuding exerted his divine power, and now looking back, he suddenly felt a big difference in front of him. A series of small formations, one ring after another, stand here in a forest. Although not strong or powerful, they are extremely complex, which is in line with the principle of the cycle of the 5 elements. This formation has some meaning. Yuding was slightly surprised in his heart and said, did it not be arranged by the great experts in formation in the martial arts world? No, I don't know. Although this formation is complex and mysterious, its foundation is weak and ultimately difficult to use effectively. With just one thought, Yuding spoke sternly, be careful, everyone. Yang Jian should be trapped in the formation. There should be some intercepting thieves secretly watching around, so be careful. Once this statement is made. But everyone was indifferent, and Nezha smiled and said, Senior uncle, you are too cautious. Fearless Sun also repeatedly said, that's right, real person. We were able to break through the Jiejiao Formation before, and we broke through 3 of the 10 Absolute Formation. Is it still necessary to take this small garbage formation seriously at present? We have been on the expedition with Prime Minister Zia for many years and have a good understanding of the Jiejiao Formation. Currently, this small formation can be easily broken with just a flick of a finger. Huang Feihu laughed heartily, his eyes filled with confidence. The real person Jian Yuding did not refute, and everyone's hearts relaxed even more. At this moment, Yuding's heart was also not so cautious. This person must not be as good as Yang Jian, otherwise why use such methods in secret to trap people? Being tired without injury is incompetence. But this battle still needs to be broken, bring Yang Jian out. Yuding looked at Yang Jian spinning around in the formation, feeling slightly dissatisfied in his heart. This Yang Jian knows how to fight, and he has no ability to break through such a shallow formation. It's too embarrassing. After returning this time, he must cultivate diligently. At this moment, Nezha fired his pointed spear, chuckled and volunteered, his eyes full of fighting spirit. Senior uncle, I'm here. He was emitting bright red flames all over, very excited. The ordinary, goldenwood water fire earth formation, is not easily broken. Brother Yang Jian is really lacking. Say it. He then became shaky and plunged his mind into the large formation. Upon seeing this, Yuding burst into laughter and shook his head, but he did not refuse. Nezha also had a competitive temperament and always wanted to compare himself with Yang Jian. Fearing to keep Sun calm and steady, the chicken thief remained calm on the side. Everyone waited quietly. Although Nezha was reckless, he had a rough and delicate approach. After breaking into the formation, he sensed his divine sense and cautiously moved forward. Surrounding, the earth attribute Dao rhyme flickers, rolling towards the earth. Just now, what Yang Jian destroyed was still just a litter. One formation reappeared before my eyes. Nezha saw how thin the earth rhyme of this great formation was, and his cautious heart immediately relaxed. He pursed his lips and mocked, such a useless formation. How could brother Yang Jian be trapped in this small formation? Didn't you wake up? He was eager to come to Yang Jian's face and was ambitious at the moment. He saw through the mystery of this formation and broke into it. Entered the next formation. Fire formation. Looking at the raging flames spreading in front of him, Nezha's face stiffened slightly and he felt a little annoyed. But the next moment, he gathered his energy, saw the exit, and took a step in. In one go, flowing like clouds in water. This kind of formation is too shallow. Did you go out this time? However, fire has turned into endless water charm. Nezha bit his silver teeth fiercely, and a blazing fire appeared all over his body. He was extremely impatient and said, "Is the five elements formation right? I will all rush over." Just like Yang Jian. He quickly broke through the formation, and in an instant, he completely eliminated the five elements formation. Afterwards, Nezha also stood in place. He held a fire-pointed spear and looked around at the five elements chi in a daze, his consciousness somewhat unstable. This. Didn't I just step out of the formation? How could that be so? His innocent little face was filled with sadness and collapse. Ah! Nezha was furious, with flames raging and spreading, and a burst of Dao Yun surging towards all sides. Bullshit formation, I will forcibly break it. The fire-pointed spear was swung in circles, and struck millions of times. However, in the end, his entire body's mana was depleted by 40%, and despite spinning around, he still couldn't get out. Until now, Nezha's small heart finally panicked. Trapped. He sat slumped on the ground, his small face filled with sorrow and confusion. It's over, I can't get out anymore. At this moment, a slightly shocked voice came. What a rich firelight. Did the Nezha brothers come in? Wong Wong. The roaring dog was very excited. Nezha seemed to grab a life-saving straw and roared angrily, "Brother Yang Jian, I came to save you, but now, I can't get out." Wow! Upon hearing these words, Yang Jian's sudden surprise dissipated once again and plunged into deeper despair. Nezha came to rescue and was also trapped. The formation cannot be broken at all. How could that be so? Oh my goodness! Help me! After some communication between the two, they became even more confused, desperate, and even collapsed. Have you ever encountered such a strange formation while wandering through the wilderness to this day? Although weak and vulnerable to a single blow, yet unable to break through alive or dead. This is a conspiracy. This is definitely a conspiracy to intercept teachings. Why, how could Jiejiao still play such a sinister move? Never let the master and his companions come in. Yang Jian shouted, his heart trembling uncontrollably. What a loss. Nezha nodded repeatedly and said, yes, they are outside. There is still a chance to break through and rescue us. Once we come in, we will be completely finished. In an instant. Senior brother Yang Jian, I was just outside and can see the situation within the formation. Let's wave our hands and not let them in. Okay. The two reached an agreement and quickly found their direction, constantly waving outwards. Unable to penetrate their divine sense, they roared with their physical bodies. Master, uncle, this is a conspiracy. Don't come in. You can't come in. Outside the formation. At the end of the long street. Yuding, afraid of leaving his grandson, Huang Feihu and others immediately felt confused when they saw this. This Nezha, Yang Jian, waving his hands repeatedly, shouting and shouting, what does this mean? Huang Feihu's face showed a hint of disdain and he said, isn't it obvious yet? He must be trapped. He's asking for help. Fearful Sun nodded and smiled. It seems that Nezha, like Yang Jian, is not good at the art of formation. Being trapped by such a formation is really not good for Nezha. It's only because his master is a Tai immortal that he is always arrogant. Strong on the outside but weak on the inside. It's not worth it. The garbage formation of just gold, wood, water, fire, and soil can even trap the two of them. Behind them, everyone sneered and disdained. Yuding frowned tightly, but he always felt something was wrong. Nezha and his two are really seeking help. How powerful is this formation? Chapter 9. They are all trapped. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. They are all trapped. Immortal, Nezha and Yang Jian are so inexperienced that they can't even break through this small formation. Since they are seeking help, let's not watch anymore. I will go ahead and rescue them. Behind the jade tripod, everyone was clamoring, their eyes filled with ridicule and disdain. It's too embarrassing. Unexpectedly trapped by such a small formation. The sound behind him was noisy, and Yuding frowned as he watched the two of them in the distance, their teeth and claws waving, but he always felt that something was wrong. At this moment. Around me. Fearing to leave Sun and Huang Feihu, Chi said, Immortal, Nezha and Yang Jian really don't make people worry. Huang Feihu's face showed a hint of disdain and he said, in front of everyone, being so disrespectful really lacks the dignity of a strong person. I'll go and rescue them later, so that they won't continue to embarrass themselves here, said Fearless Sun calmly say it. The two of them were full of arrogance and confidence, shouting loudly, listen, go ahead and break through the formation, save Nezha and Yang Jian. They rushed out together and headed towards the formation. Behind them, many followers of the sect and King Wu followed, charging towards the formation with ease on their faces. Just kidding. The Ten Jue Formation set by the 10-day Emperor of Jiejiao has broken through 3 of them. Do you still want to trap them in this small garbage formation composed of gold, wood, water, fire, and soil? The crowd was waving their magic, their Dao rhyme was surging, and they rushed into the formation in one go. At first glance, only the Jade Ding Immortal remained. Seeing such a situation, Yuding was also helpless and went in. What's the use of being outside himself? If anything unexpected happens inside, after a moment of hesitation, I let them all go in. Yuding's face was gloomy, but he wasn't nervous either. This formation is exquisite, but its power is insufficient. It seems that the person who arranges it is not at a high level. That's right, even the most powerful characters in the martial arts are being entangled by senior brothers. What's hidden here at this moment must be less powerful than me. Yuding Zhenren is quite confident in his cultivation and strength. After all, I am also one of the 12 golden immortals. As soon as he thought about this, the jade tripod no longer hesitated, but also stirred up its magic and rushed towards the formation. I broke this formation. Coming in. A mere dirt formation, extremely rudimentary. Yang Jian and Nezha were trapped in such a small formation. It's really foolish. Fearful of leaving Sun, Huang Feihu, and other people seeing how terrible the current formation was, they all burst into laughter and ridicule. Suddenly, a figure flew in. It is the Jade Ding Immortal. Immortal, this formation is too rudimentary. Yang Jian and his companions were trapped. Fearful of leaving Sun and Huang Feihu, both of them looked surprised and looked at the formation around them. It shouldn't be. Yuding Zhenren is also full of confusion at this moment. This battle is really shallow. Be careful. Let's break through the formation first. The Jade Tripod commanded. Yes, real people. Subsequently, a group of people began their journey of breaking through the formation. Earth, fire, water, metal, wood. Almost in the blink of an eye, they were able to find the exit and fish penetrated. Next, jump to the next formation. So back and forth. Continuously looping. It's like a nightmare. I shouldn't. Give it another try. Yuding was amazed. So. 3 more rounds of formation traversing. Everyone saw that they had actually returned to their original place, and their hearts sank slightly. They stuttered and couldn't speak, and a sense of foreboding arose in their hearts. Even a little shocked. We don't really want to be trapped by this small formation, do we? Yuding's face looked ugly and he shouted coldly, try again. The crowd then turned and turned again, after a full half-hour. They returned to their original place once again. How could it be? This formation is so cyclical that it can't even get out. Fearing the despair on Sun's face, he wailed, no wonder Yang Jian and his companions are waving their teeth and claws for help. It turns out that this formation really can't get out. Huang Feihu has already collapsed, his face twisted, and his body's breath rolling incessantly. Behind them, everyone was exhausted and sitting on the ground, tormented and almost going crazy. Even the Jade Ding Immortal couldn't hold his tension at this moment. He is one of the 12 golden immortals of Taoism. Unexpectedly trapped in this small formation. Collapse. Yuding looked up, her spiritual energy attached to her eyes, scanning the densely packed array around her, and couldn't help but feel dizzy. He gritted his teeth and roared angrily, smash them all at me. I don't believe it, this battle can't be broken. Everyone suddenly regained their senses. Yes, as long as you keep smashing outward, you can always break it. So. Boom. Bang. Break it for me. Breaking the formation. Nima, who came up with such a formation? Toads on the chopping board, don't bite people, respond to people's diaphragm. Within the formation, it was bustling and bustling. On the other side. Yang Jian and Nezha couldn't help but sigh as they heard so much noise nearby. Master, why did you come in? I waved my hand and told you not to come in. Upon hearing such a sound, Yuding's breath froze and stars appeared in his eyes. There's a big misunderstanding. Tuesday. Have you ever thought about using a more direct gesture? At this moment. Outside the formation. At the end of the long street. When Zhong led the crowd to intercept the teachings. After getting up, he followed the Fire Spirit Holy Mother, Bixiao, and Black Cloud Immortal. At this moment, Grand Tutor Wen led the crowd to stand in the distance and observe the eerie situation of the preaching crowd from afar. Just like before, Yuding and others looked at Yang Jian and Nezha. A group of people were preaching, crazy and foolish, smashing and looting, roaring in anger on that empty long street, each one seeming to collapse in despair. Yang Jian and Nezha, along with Yuding and others, dispersed, but also followed in circles, with the flickering Dao rhyme all around them extremely unstable. It's like Daoji is about to collapse. They came to support, but they missed each other with Shen Gongbao. At this moment, they didn't know that this formation was related to Li Changshou. So, looking at the chaotic scene before them, everyone looked bewildered. Upon seeing this, Wen Zhong was greatly shocked and confused. What does this mean? Hualing rubbed her eyes and her pretty face was full of confusion. What method? There are many tricks in preaching, is it difficult? What new move is this? Bai Zhao's pretty face was cold and indifferent, and her eyes were full of anxiety and killing intent. These people without bottom lines know how to use moves. Wu Yunxian calmly analyzed, this is a trap. The trap of elucidation. A few people stood in the distance, but for a moment, they dared not step forward. After Wen Zhong calmed down, he carefully examined the formation, but it was even more shocking. Who set up this kind of formation? Can you trap the preaching crowd? Who is so capable of arranging such a formation? Although I can see that this formation is extraordinary, I cannot see its entirety, just because the realm is insufficient. Upon closer inspection by Wu Yunxian and others, they increasingly felt that this formation seemed simple, but in reality, it was extremely mysterious. Even in the process of intercepting teachings, almost no one can evolve an ordinary formation to this extent. The person who sets up the formation must be an extraordinary person. Wu Yunxian asserted, this must be a conspiracy of elucidation. Bixiao nodded repeatedly and said angrily, they want to deliberately make such a false impression, lure us into the formation, and then catch us all. In the dark, there must be an ambush. When Taisher's eyebrows furrowed and his eyes flickered with a sense of confusion. Senior brother Zhao Gongming's life is hanging on the line, we must retrieve the 7 Arrows book with Ding Tu. He looked into the formation, and the magic weapon was hanging on Yang Jian, very conspicuous. It looks like a trap. Use this as bait to lure me in. What a cunning plan. When Zhongman's face was suppressed and angry. When did Wu Yunxian suffer such oppression? He immediately rebelled against Dao Yun and shouted, Grand Master, don't worry about so much. Rush in and fight against them. Take away the Dinghead 7 Arrows book. Behind him, many disciples who had intercepted the teachings were also full of fighting spirit and bloodthirsty. We are not afraid of preaching. Conspiracy is ultimately a small path. The atmosphere suddenly became high. Upon seeing this, Wen Zhong didn't care about anything else. He swayed his way with a cold expression and said, follow me and charge in. Kill the preaching crowd. Boom. Everyone burst out together, their bodies swaying and charging towards that formation. We, for the sake of Gongming's senior brother and for the dignity of our teaching, can only enter the formation. At this moment, behind them, there came an anxious shout. Don't enter the formation. It was Shen Gongbao who roared anxiously. However. But it was too late. Intercept the crowd and they have already entered the battle. Chapter 10 These people. Are you doing a duet? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 These people. Are you doing a duet? Outside the formation. Shen Gongbao's face was full of regret, pounding his chest and feet. Nowadays, the people who cut off teaching have also entered. What should we do now? This formation should have been set up by Elder Changshou to trap the disciples of the sect. Shen Gongbao looked around, but couldn't find any trace of Senior Li Changshou. He looked at the formation again. I can only see among them Yang Jian, Nezha. Unexpectedly, the Jade Ding Immortal is all trapped by this formation. The preaching crowd has all gone in. Shen Gongbao's mood is very complicated. Senior Li Changshou is reliable and did not deceive him. The senior truly stopped the preaching crowd with his own strength. But now, all the people I taught have also gone in. Shen Gongbao stood outside the formation, neither advancing nor retreating, anxious but helpless. After a moment of hesitation, he still dared not enter the battle. This formation is too eerie, even the Taoist Jade Cauldron Immortal cannot leave, and the disciples of the sect are trapped inside. My cultivation is insufficient, so what's the use of entering? It's safer to search for Senior Li Changshou. He probably set up this formation, and only by finding a senior can we break it. Shen Gongbao, feeling both frightened and confused, said, perhaps the senior did not know the person who intercepted the teachings, so he allowed Master Wen and others to enter the battle and trap them all. But I'm here now, why don't seniors show up? Within the formation. Almost the same scene was played as when Chan Chan first entered the formation. When Taisher, Wu Yunxian, and Huoling Xingmu all had a fierce expression in their eyes, holding a determined determination to fight to the death. Even, they have formed a large formation and are ready to face the enemy. This formation must be a conspiracy of elucidation. However, after being vigilant for a while, they were not attacked at all. Taisher, there seems to be something wrong with this situation. Bixiao's eyebrows furrowed slightly. Wu Yunxian's face was full of caution, but he was also confused. This formation looks extremely simple. How about we try breaking through the formation first? Wen Zhong made a decisive decision and said, waiting is not a solution. Let's break through the formation and take a look. So, teach everyone and easily break through the formation, entering the next level. Fire formation. After waiting for a long time and being cautious for a long time, there was still no attack. How about breaking it for a while longer? Huo Ling suggested in a low voice. When Zhongyi gritted his teeth and his mind tightened. Okay. Everyone stepped into the water formation. Everyone once again entered the golden and wooden formations. No, this formation of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth has already been broken to the end. If there is really an ambush, this is the last chance. When Zhong looked around, full of doubts. There's no crisis at all. Why don't we just break it down again, suggested Wu Yunxian when Zhong hesitated for a moment and nodded. So. Intercept and teach everyone to spin around and break through the formation one after another. Half a moment later, when Wen Zhong and others were filled with doubts and suppressed emotions, they returned to the fire formation and saw the familiar flames. They were all shocked. This grand formation is so exquisite. Wen Zhong sighed. I am proficient in formations and I am well aware of the extraordinary nature of this formation. Wu Yunxian sighed and said, the 5 elements are intertwined, looping back and forth, constantly giving birth. It is truly the perfect combination of the 5 elements. Bixiao's eyebrows furrowed, her face filled with impatience and worry. Ding Tu 7 Arrows Book, my elder brother's soul. I don't know how great it is to set up such a great formation. The disciples behind sighed. When Zhong's face showed confusion, with a feeling of helplessness. Find another way to break the situation. We have not been attacked, this formation is only trapped but not attacked, not set up by the teachings. Zhanjiao may also be trapped by this mysterious formation. Don't panic, let's find a way to break through this formation first. When Zhong and Wu Yunxian calmed down and led the crowd to quickly test the formation. Intended to break through the formation. Looking down from mid-air. Amidst a spiritual array. When Zhong led the others to intercept and teach, circling back and forth in the layered and nesting formation, causing destruction. On the other side. Yu Ding led the group of expositors, doing the same thing, quickly breaking through the formation, but always circling around and unable to break through. Under such wandering, the 2 teams gradually approached. I don't know how long it has been. Layer by layer formations are broken, and then new formations are automatically derived to fill the gaps. Jade Ding and Wen Zhong seem to have a very close understanding. Whenever the key is reached when breaking through the formation and both sides are about to enter the same formation, they both turn around and enter the other formation by a strange and miraculous difference. So much so that these 2 teams have been circling within a 100-mile radius of the formation. To the end. They get closer and closer, attracting each other, but it seems like there is a divine will in the dark, and the 2 cannot meet. Recently, they heard that there was only a sword gap between Zhong and Nezha. As long as Nezha stretches lazily and drives the fire-pointed spear on his back to rotate in a circle, it can cut through Wen Zhong's neck. But ultimately, the 2 sides have never met, destined but not separated. The void knows no place. Zhuanti and Jiayin, 2 saints, sit on the golden lotus and hide safely. Senior brother, can Zhao Gongming transform to the west? It's a pity that he died so tragically. Zhuanti looked at the Ding Tu 7 Arrows book in Yang Jian's hand from a distance and smacked his lips. Jieyin shook his head and said with regret, Zhao Gongming has a tough and loyal personality, and he can't turn around. If it can't be used for me, let it be on its own. With a faint sigh, there was still some heartache. Just as the two saints were planning to go elsewhere on the battlefield. Suddenly, Zhuan raised his eyebrows tightly and looked up at the long street. Suddenly, a hint of confusion and dissatisfaction appeared in the saint's eyes. Why have these two groups of people, Zhan Jiao and Wen Taisher, been circling within a radius of 100 miles? Why haven't we started fighting yet, even though we're not far apart? What is Yuding doing? Why don't you take this opportunity to eliminate these people from Jiejiao? Upon seeing the situation, Jieyin was immediately surprised and said, the void is folded and twisted by a powerful force. The means are very effective. That formation is extremely exquisite. Although it is only based on the simple, golden wood water fire earth formation, it is extremely complex and varies greatly. So much so that they were within reach, but couldn't see each other. Something's wrong. Zhuanti, the two of them looked at each other with surprise on their faces. Both elucidation and interception are trapped in it. Is it difficult? This formation was not set up by someone who intercepted the teachings. The two saints felt a hint of curiosity in their hearts and quickly discovered their divine sense, rushing towards the long street to investigate. However, there was no gain. Zhao Feng has a system to conceal his aura. If he doesn't show himself, even the sages won't be able to detect it. At this moment, the second holy city was greatly shocked. With the power of a sage, following the cause and effect above the formation, one should also be able to lock in the person who sets up the formation. But even after using all the means, the two saints still achieved nothing. Further away, there is also a figure gazing at the long street. It's the land pressure. He used his supreme powers to train the immortal slaying flying dagger and the Dingtu 7 arrows book, and achieved great success the day before yesterday. In just over 10 days, the Dingtu 7 arrows book will nail Zhao Gongming's soul to death. He kept staring at this place from a distance. Yang Jian was able to arrive in time and retrieve the Dingtu 7 arrows book, which was also informed by him. Otherwise, the magic weapon would have been stolen long ago. Originally, when the magic weapon was snatched back, Lu Ya's heart was completely calm and he had no spare time to watch. But when the crowd came to support him, he couldn't sit still and looked over. At this glance, I almost stunned my chin. At present, Yuding and Wenzhong, leading their respective teams, are circling around various formations. Even many times, they are already face-to-face, reaching out their hands to slap each other, but still no one is taking action. The atmosphere is eerie and peaceful. Lu Ya immediately became confused. Then, anger surged and blood surged. Playing in circles with each other. Nima, what are you doing? Are you doing a duet there?